I think stress is underneath almost every other mental health diagnosis that people struggle with, because it's stress that unlocks the potential neurologically. If someone has a neurological predisposition for depression and anxiety, not everyone actually goes on to develop depression or anxiety. The people that go on to develop it are the people that have had experiences and lived in environments for years that were very stressful, that ultimately it's like a key going into a lock. It just unlocks the potential. If we can help people get less stressed, we ultimately prevent so much depression, anxiety, relationship problems, addiction. It's all kind of rooted in chronic stress.
Do you ever feel like stress is quietly running your entire life? I'm your host, Nick Brax, and this is Move Your Mind, where I speak to people with hard-earned insights to help you change your mindset so you can change your life. I've spent the last 15 years giving thousands of talks, sharing my story, and speaking to experts all over the world. And this is the show where I bring those conversations to you. In today's episode with psychologist Dr. Mike Ronsisvalle, we break down how to stop letting stress control you and what to do when you feel stuck and overwhelmed. How much depression and anxiety do you think comes from the fact that we do live in this highly competitive, more so than ever with social media comparison, all that sort of thing, capitalism's out of control, a society where we're attaching ourselves to just the goal, not the process. So I need to make more money. I need to get higher in this job. I need to turn my company into this. I need to do this. I need to do that and then we're actually neglecting ourselves and killing ourselves in the process. So whether we get there or not becomes irrelevant. You have this goal to become worth $50 million. You get there and you're on life support because you've sacrificed your health. What's the fucking point? So it's like, how much of that kind of thinking is leading to depression and anxiety?
I think that's a huge part of it, Nick. We live in a culture that does not value the moment, that does not value the process. Like, it is all outcomes, honestly. And social media and technology has not helped that at all. It's made it way worse. Think about, I grew up in the 90s. So much easier. Was Sam Hunt sing that song is breaking up was easier in the 90s. He's 100% true. Breaking up was easier in the 90s because we didn't have all of the outcome focus. But I think that your narrative about focusing on the process versus the outcome is the solution, right? I used to live next door to these, Nick, they were really old people, man. I'm telling you, these guys they weren't just like kind of old. They were super old, like older than dirt. And my wife and we had small kids at that time, and we'd be outside on our back porch, and you got 3 kids. You're just trying to make it through an evening. You're just trying to make it. Can we make it to 8? That's the quick, because that's when they're going to go to bed. So, I'm throwing footballs and frisbees and swimming in the pool and all. And every night at the same time, this couple would walk down their backyard, and we'd watch them. I'd look at my wife at the corner of my eye like, what in the world? That's not fair. Because they'd walk all the way down to the back of their yard, out on their dock. We lived on one of the rivers here in town, and they'd sit on the dock and they'd watch the sun go down every night. And this went on for months. And my wife and we'd talk about it waking up. We'd talk about it going to bed. Man, how do these people have that kind of time? That's wild. So one time I was outside, the old guy comes over to talk to me, great guy. And I was like, man, I got to tell you, my wife and I, we were so impressed with you guys every night, the same time. You guys, I've never seen a sunset that I don't look out on your dock and you're not watching the sunset. That's wild. And he said, Mike, I got to tell you, I spent a lot of time working. My kids were young. I wasn't home a lot. I missed a lot. And when I retired, I made the decision, I'm never going to miss another sunset with my wife. And he said, not every night I have the ability to physically walk out on that dock, I'm watching the sunset. And for me, I'm like, man, what a massive example of what we need to be doing. That's a focus on a process. That's a mindful moment. Like, okay, I'm just going to take in the beauty and the incredible awe experience of a sunset. If that doesn't make you feel like you're just a part of something bigger, I don't know what will.
Yeah.
And that's the direct opposite of what our culture teaches us, because our culture teaches us, don't worry about sunsets, don't worry about healthy eating, don't worry about, kind of being present with the people you love, worry about outcome. What's your next promotion? How can you get an Instagram worthy photo? How can you, have the wedding that is like the perfect experience for everyone to see and view? And it's a dead end street, man. It's never enough. We're only as good as our last win or loss.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it's an incredible example, and really, and it hits home. Like, we don't make enough time for that kind of stuff daily. I don't make enough time for that. And I mean, I remember a few months back, my girlfriend saying to me, I just want to go for a walk with you and just talk. Yeah. And I, because I was going through a stressful period, and I'd be, having to stop and take a phone call or whatever it was. And I was like, oh, got it. It's kind of, the simple things. And I, started doing it more, and I was like, oh, I forgot I enjoy this stuff so much. It feels so good to just pause and just go for a walk. No agenda. Just, take in what your surroundings.
Yeah.
Look around, have a chat. On the weekend, I went into a diner and I wanted to have a day off. So I just sat there for 3 hours. I sat in a diner on my own, just having coffee and just people watching. And I felt incredible after just doing that. I was like, no agenda, overhearing some conversations. I was like, this is like actually the best time I've had in a while, because it was just like just allowing yourself to do nothing and just observe your surroundings, which it's kind of hard to do these days when we're just so bombarded.
Well, some of it's the technology too, though, Nick, because what you just described, it's a super, super healthy afternoon, a really healthy afternoon. For me, if I can go to the beach here in Central Florida, just sit out on the beach and watch the waves come in and out, man, that's a incredibly healthy afternoon for me. But what keeps me from doing that is it's this, man. It's always the technology that's at us 24/7, and our brains become just addicted to it. So I'm out on the back porch the other night trying to do some of this with my wife. We're sitting on our back porch, and I've got every opportunity in the world to look at her, ask her anything, ask her anything that is some reasonable question, like, hey, how are you? How was your day? And for me, the compulsion, and I noticed myself doing it, I kept picking up my phone. Was that an email that came in? Was that it? Or intuitively, instinctively, we pick up our phones if we have a moment where there's not stimulation, and we'll open up social media like Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. And every time we swipe, there's a little hit of dopamine. Every time we swipe, every time that algorithm sort of produces something more for us to look at, there's another hit of dopamine. And when we live like that all the time, we just crave it. And when we're faced with the very things that nurture us, the very things that make us healthy, the very things that will ultimately help us be, a really healthy 90-year-old that can look back on our life and be satisfied with it, we choose the technology, we choose the dopamine almost instinctively. So I'm super impressed that you sat in a diner and didn't pick up your phone and didn't scroll and doom scroll for the 3 hours. That's pretty committed. I like it.
I won't take too much credit, because I do fall into the doom scrolling almost daily and have to catch myself and stop.
Yeah.
It was refreshing to do it. So yeah, and I guess like you're saying, you sort of, I think that's a good filter to put things through. If you imagine being 90 years old, looking back on your life, it can instantly tell you what is and isn't important. And it's not to say you shouldn't be ambitious and having all these different pursuits, but the difference between whether, I guess if I go back to that acting example, just doing the thing and getting the result. If you're 90 years old looking back, you're not going to give a shit, I wouldn't think, about oh, I got all this fame, I had these huge roles, I had this happen, that happen, you're probably just going to look back and think, oh, I did something I wanted to do that was
Yeah.
important to me, that was in line with my values and meant something to me personally, and I got to do it, whether that was in front of two people in a community theater thing or in a short film or whatever the hell it was.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine you're going to really care about the other parts when you're looking back.
Yeah. I'll tell you this much. I've never sat with a client that was in the process of dying. I've not done that a ton, but I have had experiences where I've sat with people and they know, man, I've got cancer. I've got months, not years, or weeks, not months. I've never sat with anyone in therapy in that situation who said, man, I just wish I would have worked a little bit more. I wish, man, if I just would have gotten that promotion. That's never come out of anyone's mouth. Not one time. You know what has come out of people's mouths over and over and over again? I wish I would have spent more time with my family. I wish I would have, said some things to these people that I've never had the chance to say. I wish I would have done the things that, that inspire me, like go walking out in nature or going to the mountains or, whatever. So I think you're right, man. I ultimately think we get distracted by all the things that feel really good short term, but long term don't nurture our soul, man. They don't make us feel even like humans. All they do is get us caught up in that performance trap where we're driving for the next thing. Always, always, always. It's a kind of miserable life, honestly.
It is. It's depressing when you think about it. And
yeah,
I was talking to a psychologist the other day. I can't remember what they exactly said, but they were saying, the average person, if they're looking at their phone for 3 hours a day or 4 hours of screen time a day or whatever it is, if you added that up over, I don't know, 50, 60 years, whatever he had it added up, it was more than a year of your life where you're, actually staring at a screen, which it becomes terrifying when you think about it like that. Like, I'm going to spend that much of my life just like with my head in a screen.
Oh, dude, I don't even like to think about it. What I don't like is I don't like thinking about kids growing up today. Cause I remember my childhood, my family were citrus farmers out on North Merritt Island, Florida. I grew up, Nick, in the middle of like thousands of acres of orange trees. And it was like me and my family. That was it. Like there were no other kids around. So we would get into the biggest like mayhem. I mean, you just would do stuff that right now, if my kids do it, I'd be like, oh my gosh, they're going to die. But for me, it was just standard operating procedure. You're playing with, throwing rocks at alligators and coming face to face with like wild boars. It was wild. And I think of all those moments that I had with nature, just being outside, trying to find something to do. And then I think of these kids growing up right now. And I don't remember the data either as far as the actual numbers, but the amount of time that a kid spends on screens is super shocking. Like it's really bad. I think the average high schooler in the US at least is spending like 3 or 4 hours a day on social media and on phones. That's not to mention the time they spend sitting in front of a computer doing homework or the time they spend at school on screens. I mean, it's going to be a large part of people's lives that they spend looking at screens.
And then you add in watching, Netflix, TV, movies, whatever else. It's the majority of life. And it is so true. Like I'm 38 years old and I feel so lucky that I just missed the boat of growing up with technology. And I was out in parks and, you go and knock on your friend's door when you want to hang out and you're riding bikes around town. And it does genuinely, I don't have kids yet, but it really worries me about, the next generation because this is just integrated into every single facet of life. Even if you want to try and moderate that around kids, you can only do that to such an extent because it's just part of the world.
Yeah. I think as parents, we've got to work really hard to give our kids experiences that don't include technology, that get them outside of our houses. Like it was built into life 100 years ago. Like you didn't have to worry about that. You wanted kids like, hey, go read, that sort of thing. Now it's, I need you to be out of this. I need you to like have sunshine in your in your eyes. Like you need to know what it's like to live in the real world. My wife and I made a decision, and I would say probably 15 years ago, that at least once a year we were going to get our kids to the Florida Keys. And the reason we go to the Keys, I don't know if you've ever been to the Keys, Nick, there's nothing in the Keys. Like if you go to a restaurant, it's like a hole in the wall. It's the worst. If you go to a gas station, it's awful. But the water, out in the water, it's beautiful, man. It's like crystal clear. So we take our boat down there and we spend at least a week every year snorkeling, spearfishing, fishing, just out in nature. And I'm telling you, I don't think I'll ever regret that, because my kids have the experience of like living life, at least for a week a year. I mean, at least there's something we can look back on, look at pictures, say, hey, remember that fish, or remember that dive. It's meaningful for kids. So, man, as parents, we've got to do a better job of getting kids in a position where they're experiencing life, having mindful moments, like moments of like, I live right here, right now, not I'm just like stuck looking at someone else's lives, or, on Netflix, watching someone pretend to be a cool gangster, or, whatever, that is not even remotely close to reality.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, we do need more of that. And, I miss that being when I'm in the US. Like, I feel very lucky that I've had parents that have, taken us on trips. We've got a holiday house in nature. My dad every year goes on hikes where you've literally just got all your tents and, your food and everything on your back, and you're off grid for 8 days. And a lot of the time I think, oh God, like I'm coming back to Australia for a short amount of time. I'm going to spend more than a week of that on this hike. Like, can I be bothered? But then a few days in, it becomes literally the highlight of my year. I'm like, this is the best fucking thing I could have done.
Yes.
And by the end of it, you're like, I don't want to go back. Like, oh my God, like your mind is so calm. It's almost like you just detox yourself, and it realigns things. And then it's kind of sad that, it doesn't take long after that to then fall back into the same, same patterns. But it really, it's astronomical how much of a difference it makes.
Mm-hmm. Man, I forgot you're from Australia. I don't know how. You've got, like I said before we were taping, you've got the best accent ever. But yeah, I mean, you've got to be like super familiar. I mean, that's one of the most beautiful areas in the world, right? I mean, the water's amazing. Did y'all do water stuff a lot and get out in the water?
Yeah, we grew up in the water, and I'd do like swimming with my dad, body surfing, just, Australia, it's almost everyone knows how to swim pretty much, because we, 95% of the population's along the coastline. It's a warm climate, beautiful beaches. So yeah, it's pretty lucky. Like I do miss that aspect of it. It's stunning, but get back there as much as I can.
Man, we just have to figure out how to capture those kinds of moments, what you just described, even if it's in little micro ways, and the research is kind of clear on that too. You don't have to take 8 days. 8 days is awesome. But even if you take 5 minutes, and if you work inside all day, take a walk, like get outside, walk outside 5 minutes for 2 times a day. Just that 10 minutes has an ability to reset your neurology. If you can't 100%. Do that, get by a window and take 60 seconds and watch a bird fly around, or, look at the clouds pass by in the sky. Those things that are so small seem irrelevant, yet the reset for the brain neurologically is real. And so it is a very significant, kind of actionable way to come against depression, anxiety, stress, burnout, things like that.
If you're listening to this and you want to make a change in your life, but you don't know where to begin, I've created a free Move Your Mind masterclass that walks you through how to build sustainable habits and make change that really sticks. And you'll also get access to a free weekly newsletter where I post practical tools and stories that I don't share anywhere else. To watch the free masterclass, head to go.nickbrax.com/moveyourmind. That's go.nickbrax.com/moveyourmind. You can also find the link in the show notes. Is it hard for people to find a quality therapist, a quality professional in this area that can match up to what they're looking for, because it can be kind of overwhelming. Where do you look? Who do you go
Yeah.
to? How do you find
Yeah.
the right place?
So it's super hard, Nick, for people to get connected with a therapist that can truly help. And I think there's several reasons why. Number one, the internet has just become this, in many ways, like a clearinghouse of these, they would call themselves providers, but they're these big multinational conglomerates, and they take in all these clients. So they buy up all the keywords on Google and Facebook, and it seems like they are the leaders of the field, but really all they're doing is they serve as a marketing funnel that gets people to counselors that are in their area. So they rent panels from insurance companies, and then they direct clients that they capture to just random clinicians that might or might not be a good fit. So for me, it's the spirit of the times in some ways, that technology should be helping us connect people to services, but in a lot of ways it prevents people from finding the kind of therapist that can actually really be of service to them. So when I talk to people, I talk about the idea that we've got to be good mental health consumers. In other words, we need to take it upon ourselves, if we want to get some help, to find the people that we connect with. Because one thing is for sure, if you don't have a great connection with your therapist, the idea that that therapy is going to actually help and help you feel better is not really high. Some of the common factors research on outcomes in therapy says that, a large majority of the change that actually takes place in a person's life is not necessarily connected to what kind of therapy they're doing, whether they're doing EMDR or cognitive behavioral therapy or acceptance and commitment therapy. It really has a lot to do with the common factors of therapy, which ultimately is the therapeutic relationship. So until you find someone that you feel safe with, that you feel like you can connect with, the idea that therapy is going to work, it gets a lot harder.
Yeah, it's true. And that's the difficult thing. And I've been through that myself, where in my 20s, I saw probably more therapists than I can count. And most of the time it was what you're saying there. I couldn't find that relationship that really felt right. But on top of that, there's the part of, people they're finding people that just aren't even credible. They might not be the right fit. You spend money on it, you invest time, then you get to a place where you decide, okay, I'm going to pull the pin on this. I want to find someone else. But by that point, you're emotionally exhausted. You might not be able to afford it. You almost feel defeated, and you're very unlikely to want to then go and, go down that process again.
Yeah, man, it's hard to get with somebody and just open up in the first place. I mean, I think that's one of the problems, is you go see someone and it takes all that effort and energy. You've got to get to their office, or even if it's virtually, you've got to make the time, set the appointment. And once you go through a session or two of bearing your soul, it's super hard to say, well, it's not a good fit. So a lot of times people just double down and triple down, quadruple down, say, okay, I'm going to lean into this, and I'm not getting a lot out of it, but I'm still going to try. And that, man, it's not a great choice. We have to let ourselves say, okay, if we're not feeling connected, if we don't feel ultimately like safe, like safe with the person, like I can trust this person, it's probably better just to cut and go find someone that is going to actually be able to speak into you.
So is that almost similar to dating, when you can sort of know, okay, this relationship's not serving me anymore, but it's become my comfort zone. It's going to be harder to break it off and be single and try and find someone again. People just stay stuck in that therapeutic relationship because it's going to cause friction to then go and, try and disrupt that.
That's actually that's a very interesting metaphor. I've never heard that before, but yeah, I think it is just like dating. I think if you get with someone, maybe they're not a great fit, but I care about them. I know they're maybe not a great fit, but they know all these things about me, and we have this shared history. All the lies that we tell ourselves that keep us connected with people romantically is probably the same lies that keep us connected with a therapist. And I just hope that one of the things that people can take from this podcast is to recognize that hope is real, that you can connect with people that will care about you, that'll be with you, that'll be for you, and that you can get from where you're at to where you want to be. Like, you can find freedom from mental health issues.
Yeah, it exists. It's out there, and there always is hope. And I guess like that's the one human trait when we're struggling. If we lose hope, that's when you almost feel like giving up. That's the thing that keeps driving us. So have people being able to have that knowledge and awareness that there is the right solution out there.
Yeah.
You might just need to dig a little bit to find it.
Yeah. Yeah. Hope it's tricky, man. You start to deal with chronic issues like chronic stress or chronic pain is another one, or I've been anxious for decades. It's hard to feel like if I make one more call and I meet with one more person, then maybe I'm going to be okay. Sometimes we just get to that point where it feels like, what's the point? But my job today, and my job really all day, every day, is to convince people that hope is real, that we have to make the next call. We have to keep leaning in to even finding information that's healthy, that helps us turn towards the healthy path and the healthy value systems that are going to help us ultimately live the life that we've always wanted to.
So what's a process you can go through with yourself in that area? Because I guess like I'll look at my own life, you go through these periods. I guess one example I could go to would be I used to do a lot of acting work and, well, a lot of auditions, not many jobs. But, in that industry, you're getting rejected for a living. So you go and audition, you hear nothing, you audition again. You do that 100 times. Yeah. Eventually, you start thinking, what am I doing? I'm wasting my time. I've invested all this effort into it. I'm getting the same result. That then plays on your self-esteem. It makes you think you're not good enough. It probably plays into then how you show up. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You become more desperate. And that can apply to, anything in life, really. How do you reconcile that? Because it's almost like the data's telling you that you're not doing the right thing. You're not worthy, yet you need to keep showing up. You do need to be learning. But how do you frame that to yourself? What should you be telling yourself? What should you be doing when you're in that kind of cycle?
The biggest piece is to focus on the battleground of your mind. And we hear that all the time. I almost, Nick, sometimes hate to talk about it because people start to say, oh, here we go again. Think happy thoughts and I'll be happy. And been books written about that, but lots of times it feels so incomplete because it's not true, right? You can't just think happy thoughts and be happy. It's more complex than that. For me, I tell people you do have to pay attention in the battleground of your mind. You have to begin to speak against the negative narrative that has whispered in your ear for days and weeks and months and years. But the way to do that is to start with your, what I call core beliefs. And your core beliefs are the core ideas that you have about what makes you acceptable and worthwhile and significant and valuable and lovable, and what keeps me safe and what makes me okay. Like those messages become almost the lens or the filter through which we view every relationship, environment, situation that we come in contact with. So it's all filtered through, this belief system that we have about what makes us worthy and valuable and okay. And to think happy thoughts can sometimes be Pollyanna, right? But to really dig down into your core belief and to say, okay, what's true? That's not Pollyanna at all. It's not Pollyanna to say there are some lies that I've believed in the past that other people told me maybe at a really early age, and then there's some truths. And for me, I'm going to go with the truths. I'm seeking the truth, minute by minute, moment by moment. And if we can allow ourselves to get real honest about what's actually true in our life, the reality is, man, if we do the healthy things, we do get healthy. That's data driven. That's not just my opinion. That's not just my work with people. That's data. The research is clear. If we do the healthy things, we end up getting healthy. But the problem is the lies at our core tell us, oh no, you're not going to get healthy because you're a lost cause, or you're not going to get healthy because you've tried so many times and it hasn't worked already. You're not going to get healthy because, just like your mom says, or you're a loser, or, you're not enough, or I'll never be enough. And so we've got to sort of begin to say, okay, I'm going to recognize the lies and how that drives negative emotion and hopelessness. And then I'm going to recognize the truths that, and believe that if I just do the healthy things, I will get healthy. I can find relief. I can live in recovery.
Yeah, because it is such a different thing than just being positive. It's really digging deeper and looking at what is actually important to you. And I guess like separating from outcomes with process and why am I actually doing it? Am I doing it just for the end outcome, or, am I doing it for a bigger reason that's more important to me? Because then you sort of take back a bit of control rather than, I guess, going back to that acting example, if it's like, I'm just doing it so I can get a role, get famous, make money, get to the next level, you're going to be cripplingly anxious and you're probably never getting there because it's a tiny percent. But if it's like, you know what, I love doing this, an audition's a way to perform in front of someone, how exciting.
Yeah.
That's it. I get a chance to do it,
Yeah, man, it's almost like the difference between a goal and a value system. Like a lot of times we orient ourselves around goals, like, oh man, I'm gonna make all this money, or I'm gonna get super healthy and feel good every day, or whatever. I'm gonna run a marathon. I like that metaphor. I'm gonna run a marathon. Well, if your goal is to run a marathon, you're only as good as your last win or loss, right? The key is to say, okay, wait, I can't worry about goals. I've got to worry about my value system. What's true? What drives me? What's the reality about what to me is most important in my life? Because if my value system is, I want to be a healthy dude that at 85 years old is running around with my great grandkids and playing and having fun, versus an 85-year-old with oxygen. Like, I'm going to be healthy. That's my value system. That value system then drives a goal, and the goal might be to run a marathon. And if that's the case, then run your marathon and,
Exactly.
do cardio training or do weightlifting, but I'm doing everything I'm doing because it's a reflection of the most important things in my life that are true all the time, always, even in difficult situations.
Would you say, because it's, the stuff we're talking about, if you're in the position where you're in financial turmoil, you can barely hold a job, or maybe you're working 3 jobs and you're still swimming in debt, you've got no spare time, you can sit there and you could listen to this conversation and say, well, yeah, great. I would love to work out what I love doing. I'd love to go out into nature. I would, love to be able to focus on the process and love what I'm doing. I don't have that luxury. I can't even, make ends meet here.
Yeah.
And it consumes everything. Like, what do you say to those kind of people? Because I know that can be, it can feel all consuming.
Yeah. So I go back to battleground of your mind, right? And going back to that core belief and that value system to say, okay, what do I value? And I'm going to value the healthy things. And if it's healthy for me to kind of get my head in a clear place at least once a day, I'm going to do it, because it doesn't cost a cent to walk outside and let the sun shine on your face. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't cost a dime to go to a park, sit on a bench and watch some, little kid play in a park. That, like, there's value to that. And I think what happens is depression, anxiety, stress, burnout, all these things begin to tell us all the reasons why. Here's why you can't get healthy. Here's why it'll never work. You've tried this before. But the truth is, if we do the healthy things, we do get healthy. Like that is reality. People that are diagnosed with like fibromyalgia, for instance, or chronic fatigue syndrome, the last thing they want to do is exercise, because they feel horrible. But guess what? One of the best, most validated treatments for both of those problems are exercise. So you do the healthy things, you do it anxious, you do it depressed, you do it scared, you do it without a lot of hope. But over time, you say, this is my value system. I'm doing the healthy things. You start to feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. That's powerful. It is. And
yeah,
people need that guidance, because it is very hard to motivate yourself on your own when you're stuck in a pattern. So I guess it's why it's important, we have people like you and able to put these messages out to people. They need to hear this information because they often, don't know where to go or where to start. So super important. What are the main areas you've in your own career in psychology? What are the main areas you've focused on?
So I've gone through several iterations, Nick, honestly. I've worked extensively in addiction over the years. So I owned a addiction rehab with 24 beds. And we brought people from all over the country to come get treatment. We would do trauma-informed addiction treatment. So I'm super familiar with alcohol and drugs and how those kind of things can transition from sort of normal, healthy kind of expressions of behavior to like really toxic behaviors that cause people to die. I mean, that's kind of where addiction ends. So I've got a specialty in addiction. I've worked a lot with depression, anxiety over the years. If you look at the data on it, that makes sense, right? Because 20% of the population right now meets the criteria for a diagnosis of depression or anxiety. That's a massive number. It's crazy. 40% of teenagers, Nick, in the past year have considered suicide.
40%?
40. It's nutso, man. It's crazy. How
is that in the US or is that global?
I think that's a US stat.
That's so terrifying.
Terrible. It's terrible. So it's no surprise that when you look at my specialty, there's so many people with anxiety and depression that come through the door. That's a piece of what I've done over the years. But I've really been most kind of enamored with the idea of stress, because I think stress is underneath almost every other mental health diagnosis that people struggle with, because it's stress that unlocks the potential neurologically. If someone has a neurological predisposition for depression and anxiety, not everyone actually goes on to develop depression or anxiety. The people that go on to develop it are the people that have had experiences and lived in environments for years that were very stressful, that ultimately it's like a key going into a lock. It just unlocks the potential. So for me, stress, if we can help people get less stressed, we ultimately prevent so much depression, anxiety, relationship problems, addiction. It's all kind of rooted in chronic stress. And as you and I have already talked about today, that's sort of where we're at culturally. Like, we're living in that right now, all of us.
Yeah. I love that, because if I look at, for me, anxiety is probably throughout my adult life been the thing I've struggled with the most. And exactly as you're saying there, that would always be stemming from stress.
Yeah.
If you could remove the stress or the things that you're worrying about, or, it'd be very hard for the anxiety to sort of be there, or to really, to have that impact if the stress wasn't there.
Yeah, 100%. And I think if you live in chronic stress long enough, a lot of people will develop anxiety. I mean, in some ways they're similar, right? But the idea is stress is, I'm worried about something that is going to happen in the future that's very tangible, and it's short term and it's time limited. I'm stressed about my job, or I'm stressed about this test I have in this class, or I'm stressed about, this checkup that my kid has at the doctor. Anxiety is, it's a few steps beyond that. It's, I am now compulsive about trying to anticipate threat. Like, what are all the things that have stressed me out over the years? Let me anticipate what's coming next. Let me try to control the future. And it actually is the opposite of what we talked about earlier with process over outcomes. Anxiety is obsessed with outcomes. It lives in the future. Depression kind of lives in the past. Anxiety kind of lives in the future.
Yeah. That definitely makes sense for me. That's where my mind's always gone, the future. Looking forward instead of, being present and wanting to, seeing the big picture. And it's really why, even with my company, we do a lot of work holistically with people. It's not, with psychology. I'm not a psychologist, so it's more from the health and fitness space. And, we put programs together just to encourage people to take action. And I think exercise is one of the best ways to do that. Just move your fucking body, do anything, don't worry about needing to run that marathon yet. Go and walk for 10 minutes today, do something.
Yeah.
Because it's so common. You hear so many people saying, yeah, but I want to get to this level. And how do I do this? How do I find the perfect diet? And, I want to be training in the gym 3 days a week, running on the other days, doing this, doing that. And you don't stick to any of it. Just do something. Go and, take that first step.
Yeah. I call it inertia. You need like inertia, especially with depression. Like, because depression it'll grab you, and given its way, it will shut down every system in your body, man. It brings everything down. And before you know it, you don't want to leave the house. You don't want to take a shower. I mean, it can get so severe. And the best treatment for depression initially is inertia. It's like, get moving, like just get moving. There's even some data, Nick, on like long-term studies that look at the efficacy of medicine and exercise to treat depression. And exercise is as effective or more effective than medicine in treating depression long-term. So when you think about it like that, man, that's almost irresponsible to treat people for depression without encouraging them to begin to move. Our whole LiveWell coaching platform, and we were talking about that a little bit before as well, like it's all based on body, mind, spirit, right? Like you can't decide I'm just going to get healthy emotionally and I'm going to root out depression at its core and take care of it without recognizing that in some ways it's rooted in your body. So we tried it on that LiveWell coaching platform to get people moving. So how do you begin to work with a coach that can help you sort of say, okay, what are my goals for this month? What are my fitness goals? How much should I be walking? And you're right to say it's not marathon training. It's really not. The research would show just get your body moving like 20, 30 minutes a day. Like that's a great start. And that's what's associated with the alleviation of lots of these symptoms of depression and anxiety.
Well, can you tell me a little bit more about how the platform works? Because it sounds super interesting.
Yeah. So we do thousands and thousands of sessions at our clinics in Central Florida. So, man, like I said, we've got an army of therapists and clinicians that are just ready to help people. But one thing that kind of hit me a few years ago is it's almost like the more therapists I hire, the more patients we find, right? It's like this tidal wave of brokenness that's coming at us. And we're just trying to like plug up all the holes. And how do you hold it back? And it feels like almost defenseless as a person in the field. So what I did with LiveWell coaching is say, okay, wait, if we were going to try to work with people that weren't yet at a point where they needed to go get intensive therapy, but they were starting to struggle with some of the symptoms of depression, anxiety, stress, especially having a relationship issue. Man, I'm more addicted than I want to be. I'm drinking a little bit too much, or I'm looking at, pornography too many times a day, or, I'm gambling. And how could we capture that group of people that really were never going to walk in a therapist office yet? They were going to walk in a therapist office in like a year. But how do we capture them and provide them with the kind of information that would help them get healthy and stay healthy? And so that's what we've done is we've got, man, hundreds of hours of video and audio content that's designed around courses. So we have like courses on like stress relief for life or freedom from depression. If you just want to know what people do in therapy when they go session by session, that's how these courses are designed. Like this would be session 1, what we cover for stress, or this would be session 2 that you would get. This is all the content you'd get. This is session 3, but we just put it in course form so you can access it on demand. We also do challenges every month. So we take one thing every month and say, okay, we're going to get healthy on this domain. Like right now we're doing a gratitude challenge. We're coming up to Thanksgiving. So for 14 days, everybody that's on our platform gets content that's super quick, super easy, quick and dirty, man. It's like 5-10 minute video every day. It's just dropped directly to you. You watch it and we have you do one thing. What's one thing I can do differently today? So we have this like catalog at this point of challenges that people can go through, things like, you know, a reset for your mindset or an anxiety detox that we did last spring, that every day they're just getting information about that challenge. Then we also drip unique content every day on our 5 pillars. So we have depression, anxiety, wellness, addiction, and relationships. So every day of the week, you get new pieces of content taught by clinicians, by psychologists, by people that are in the trenches working with clients every day. And so you combine all that with a chatbot that is trained on LiveWell content, which is super cool. We just got that in place. So you can now go and chat with a chatbot that answers first with LiveWell content. So it's all the, you know, books we've written or articles we've written and videos we've done. And I can talk to it, Nick, and the chatbot will give me, like, if I say, hey, I'm super stressed, you know, what should I do today to calm down? It'll give me, you know, 4 or 5 things to do. And it cracks me up because half the time it's like stuff that I recommend to people all the time. Like, it's like I'm talking to me. So
Yeah.
that's our goal with Live Well Coaching. It's to help people get healthy and stay healthy and live well.
Amazing, mate. Well, it's so important because I think, yeah, like you're saying, the aspect of the therapy side is important. It almost can't be serviced enough. But I think this area you're talking about here, offering some more holistic preventative solutions to people as well that can be accessed on a broad level. We need more of that. We don't have enough. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there, but I think people don't really know, you know, where to go to find something that's actually going to work for them. And it can be overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the cool part for us is we believe in everything that we're saying on Live Well Coaching. Like, we can stand behind it. It's kind of the opposite of what I was talking about when we first started. You know, like there's these big companies that, you know, have VC funding of $500 million that take in all these clients and they basically are just marketing machines. That's the opposite of what we're doing. Like, we produce every bit of content that we give to people. We stand behind this is the stuff that works, right? So to be able to know that, okay, there's a place that you can go get information that will stop problems before they start, or it'll take my mild symptoms and it'll help me really get a hold of them and start to feel better. That to me is exciting because, Nick, there's no way, man. There's no way that this field keeps up with demand. It just doesn't, because of everything we've talked about today. Like, when you look at, you know, technology and the way we live and how fast and furious we're going, and we're all running 100 miles an hour. In 10 years, there's no way there's enough mental health counselors or psychologists or psychiatrists to meet the need. So
not possible.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love it that you're using the work that you're already doing, your system, the teams, the content, because like you're saying there are these, you know, companies that have millions, billions of dollars, marketing machines. Maybe they're getting that in the hands of a lot of people. How many people are they actually helping? So would you rather get some product in the hands of 20 million people, but not actually have any depth in how much you help them, or have something that actually works and get it in front of, you know, 10,000 people or whatever number it is, but actually help them? And I think that's a big problem again with how the world is now. There's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of noise, but not a lot of tools that are actually effective in helping people to make any change whatsoever.
Yeah.
Important.
You're right. No, you're right. I'm just thinking of, and I'm not going to mention this guy's name, but he's all over social media, and I kind of liked him when I first listened to him. I saw him on, I don't know, TikTok or Instagram or something when I was doom scrolling. It was awful, Nick. Anyway, so I'm watching this guy, and I'm like, oh, this guy's pretty funny. This is cool. And it's Doctor, you know, this guy's name. I'm like, okay, we finally have a clinician here, somebody that's trained, that knows what he's talking about, done a bunch of clinical work, and now he's trying to help people. And the more I listened to him, I was like, man, it's like it just felt like a little incomplete. Like he had platitudes that he's putting out there, but no real meat on what you do with the issues. And then when I looked him up, the guy's not even a clinician. Like the guy. So like, that's the part that I think we've got to figure out culturally, is to say, how do we get the right people in front of the masses to help people truly understand the depth of what's required to start to feel better. So it's challenging, but
it's challenging. And I think all of this stuff, you know, with how the world is now, I mean, it always has been like this, I guess, but more important than ever, that it's got to start with yourself. And I think, you know, you've got to take I think we all need to take personal accountability and leadership in how we show up for ourselves, and then how we show up in the world, because nothing will change if we don't, person by person, try and start having more of that attitude, because otherwise it becomes garbage, like what you're talking about there. And
yeah,
I'm going to have to ask you when we stop recording who the person was. Just out of interest.
Yes. Well, look.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. You go. Yeah.
Well, no, I was just gonna agree with you with the personal responsibility piece. I think that's huge, because the desire for people to just take medicine to feel better, and our culture's insistence on that. And look, we've got medication management at our clinics. I'm a believer in it. It works. We've got a great team. It's not that I'm like, oh, medicine is horrible, you should never take it. I am saying that we shouldn't take happy pills. We shouldn't just say, I want to take medicine, and not do the depth of work that will allow us to maybe one day get off the medicine. Or if we never get off the medicine, to at least feel like I've got the responsibility that I've taken upon myself to learn the coping skills that will help me live the most productive life I possibly can. So I do like the fact that you brought that up. At the end of the day, we've got to say, okay, I'm responsible for me, and I'm going to do the healthy things. And I think that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Where can our listeners go if they want to find more out about the LiveWell? LiveWell, is that what it was called? The LiveWell platform?
LiveWell Coaching. So go to LiveWell, LiveWell-coaching.com. And you'll get all the information. There's actually some stuff you can do on there that's free. We have a $20 membership. I'd love for people to do that. That's great. You get all of our stuff, but there's some stuff you can do on there for free, some challenges, some courses. You can also connect with a coach. Like if you want to connect with someone that's not a therapist, they're not going to do depth therapy work with you, but they are going to help you kind of navigate our platform and help you make a wellness plan and help you try to execute on that. So all of that happens on livewell-coaching.com.
Great. Well, we'll have that in the show notes. So anyone listening, make sure to go and check it out. Mike, thank you for everything you've shared here. I think I could keep talking to you for another couple of hours. We'll have to have you back on. I finish every episode with 5 closing questions. So I'll jump into these to finish up.
All right.
First one being, when was the last time you were truly vulnerable in your life?
Man, I would say that every day I have the opportunity to interact with my wife and my kids. And it is the pleasure of my life, Nick. It is the most important thing in my life. I love what I do. I love being a psychologist. I love helping people. It's all great, right? But at the end of the day, for me to sit like with one of my kids and laugh at some stupid video, or at our dog who gives us plenty of material, by the way, like those moments, I cherish them. Like those are the most real, valuable moments that I have. Sit with my wife on our couch, or take a walk, or ride down the road. It doesn't matter. Just have a moment where, there's no space between us emotionally, and we can just be real, direct, open, honest. Like that to me is why I do this life, man. Like that's what matters.
Beautiful. And really full circle back to what we were talking about. If you're 90 years old, looking back, that's what you're going to care about. So
yeah,
a really good reminder for all of us. So thank you for sharing that. What do you think's currently the biggest burden on mental health in society?
Man, what a question. I think accessibility to therapists that are not burned out, who are present and equipped and ready to help. So I would say that. I would also say accessibility to information that we can trust. As you've said 2 or 3 times today on the podcast, there's a lot of information out there about mental health. There's a lot of people doing courses and challenges, stuff like we're doing, but it's so hard now to know what's trustworthy, what's real, and what's just, someone being noisy or someone, looking stuff up on Chat GPT and publishing it out like you're an expert. So those are the two pieces that I think are going to be the most problematic going forward, especially.
Absolutely. If you could give one piece of advice to your 18-year-old self, what would that be?
Man, I think if I could give one piece of advice to my 18-year-old self, it would be, I'd go right back to our podcast and I'd say, hey man, watch this little segment on value system. Watch this part where where the older you and Nick talk about the value of kind of ensuring that your life is based on some principles that are going to be true for you no matter what. Doesn't matter when you experience trials, doesn't matter when you experience disappointments. It doesn't matter when people fail you. It doesn't matter when people are disloyal. It doesn't matter when, you don't measure up or you don't make the mark. Mike, focus on your value system. Get your value system clear first and just act on it at all times. Do things that are consistent with your value system. I think that message for an 18-year-old, pretty powerful.
It's so, because it becomes a filter. You can just keep referring back to the value system.
Yeah.
Does it or does it not fit into that value system? And then, that helps you make decisions. It helps you have boundaries. I'd give myself that same advice. I think it's so critical.
Yeah.
Really important. Do you have any regrets in life? If so, what's your biggest regret?
Well, man, I think I have lots of regrets. I think I could look back and relitigate 1,000 things. When I was 12 years old, I should have taken algebra instead of pre-algebra because it might have put me on a different track. Who knows? So yeah, I've got all kinds of regrets, but honestly, not really, because at the end of the day, I think it's the times in my life when I've messed up or felt really broken or missed the mark. It's the times in my life when I've gone through like the darkest nights of the soul that have been more instructive for me than even the good times. I don't know about you, but when I look back on my life, it's not like, man, when things were awesome, I learned so much. That's not how it works. No. I learn a lot when, I'm just like having to be honest and reevaluate and say, wow, I wasn't expecting that one. And so those are the moments that I feel like we can say, okay, I can grab on to that learning and I can just trust that I can even have gratitude for the growth that I'm experiencing right now. So I don't know if that was a real answer or not. I might have copped out on it, but.
No, not at all. I think it's a great answer. And it's, we learn more from, whether you want to call it failures. I don't think it's even failure is a good word because it's actually learning. Yep. And like you're saying, regrets, it's not really worth having them because we look back and it's like, well, if I went and changed these things, would I arrive where I am now? And they inform so many things. So yeah, it's good advice. So final one, what does it mean to you to be truly happy?
I like to think about it differently. Because for me, happiness is situational. And so to me, if I'm happy, then that means I just had a great meal or a fun time, just things that are really temporal and that come and go. And that's that's sort of the ebb and flow of the tides at the beach. When I go watch it comes in and it goes, dude. And that's life, right? Sometimes they're good and happy, and sometimes they're like harder and heavier. That's the natural cadence of life. I like to think in terms of joy. Like for me, it's joy. And joy transcends an experience, and it transcends a situation or an environment. Joy is something that I hope I approach good times with, and I approach hard times with. And that's that sense that no matter what happens, I do believe that there's hope. I believe that there's hope beyond, right here, right now. And so if I can attach to that, then ultimately I can engage anything with joy, because I can live in moments and be present, and it can be enough. Whatever happens is enough. And so that joy that I experienced there just feels like a more of a depth experience than the happiness of a moment.
Love it. Well, great way to finish up. And Mike, thank you for, giving our listeners your time, for being so open, for sharing all of this information. I've taken a huge amount out of this. I'm sure they will as well. So yeah, really appreciate it.
Nick, you're the man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And thank you for listening. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode and any topics you'd like to hear about. Feel free to leave a comment or send me a DM. Your feedback is always appreciated. It would mean the world to me if you can subscribe to my channel, leave a like or comment, share it with your friends. It makes a world of difference. It doesn't cost anything, and it helps me to get this show bigger and better and bring on the guests and the production value that you ask for every single week. I couldn't do it without you guys. Thank you so much.